Hi, and welcome back to Kickdown Garage. Today we got the 88 Monte Carlo in the shop, and today we will be working on the clear coat system. Now, earlier in the video I showed you the issues with the paint and the cracking and everything. Well, I went through and washed it, pressure washed it multiple times, used Dawn soap, a degreaser, and it was like a 415 degreaser, industrial strength. Went through, pressure washed it again, really scrubbed the paint, trying to get everything clean. And the hardest part is just all the stuff that's down in all these little cracks. When I tried to buff it and that didn't work out, all that buffing compound was down in the cracks and trying to get all that out. And I got it pretty good. So hopefully it'll be good enough. And one more thing. Stuff on these pads to clean up. But anyway, this is the Poppy's Patina wipe-on clear coat system. So pretty much let's unbox it. We got some Scotch-Brite pads, a microfiber applicator, some rags, and then we got the product itself, wax and grease remover, and the wipe-on clear coat gloss finish, and then the clear tags. So let's get these on the bag. Again, not being endorsed by any of these, I'm just using them and filming it for your guys' benefit too, and kind of see how the process will go. Let's see, the clear catalyst, what that's supposed to be, it's supposed to be a hardener for it, and it's just supposed to make it tougher and more resistant to greases and gas. Then, let's see, wax and grease remover. So, like I said, I already degreased the car, but I will go over it again with this, since the car's been sitting outside for about an hour. But I'll go through it again, wipe everything down, making sure I have it as clean as possible. And then we'll start doing this. Now, I did ask a question on my Facebook page if anybody had experience with this stuff and how they did it, and they said to spray it on, they said wipe it on, just different things. And I think I might end up spraying it on, but I also am just curious because it's advertised as a wipe-on clear coat, so I kind of want to do it as a wipe-on too. So initially I was going to start with the roof and go to the hood and the trunk, but I think I might be starting with the trunk just because that's the smallest area, and just doing the trunk lid and actually trying to wipe it on and see how it turns, if there's any streaks or lines or anything. If I don't like how it turns out with wiping it on, then I'll just spray the rest of the car, and then I'll just spray the trunk lid itself again. So I figured that'd probably be the best way to go. And if it turns on, if it turns out okay, then I'll just do the wipe on the whole car. Now, if I do spray it on, I just went over to Harbor Freight, bought one of their cheapest sprayers possible, just trying to keep everything on a budget, and we'll see how that works out. I posted a question about using the wipe-on clear coat on my Facebook page, and someone said, why don't I just buff the car out? Well, to show that I already attempted that, take a look right here. Obviously you can see this is where it wasn't buffed, and that's where I buffed it. Try to zoom out here. With all the little fine cracks in the paint, the rubbing compound or polishing compound that I used just goes right into all those cracks, and you can see it does not work out. And this is where I just did some rust repairs that had some rust on the roof, so that is actually like a clear coat on there. So those areas it worked on, but not where all these, you can see all the fine cracks in there. So I just wanted to point that out before I started. That's why I'm just did a test area, and now I'm gonna have to try to pressure wash and scrub and try to get all that compound out of all those little cracks. Okay, you can see there, that's just one of the stripes that got banged up from the pressure washer, so I'm just gonna pull out that middle stripe and replace that, and maybe this top one too, we'll see. And then This is the area that was really bad. Got most of it off. A little bit just didn't want to come off, but you can see here the paint is just so thin. Otherwise, that's where a touch-up was. Otherwise, I wet sanded that area. You can see how smooth it was. And it probably wouldn't hurt. I mean, really got all these cracks kind of out of it. But again, it's just it's so thin that I hate to go too much with it. And then you kind of go past the point of no return. A few more spots that I kind of did. And I didn't get them perfect, but I'm hoping that clear coat will smooth everything out. So we'll see. It's kind of okay having a little bit of imperfections just to see what kind of what that product will actually do to fix everything. And just got a few little watermarks here, so that's what that prep all is gonna take care of, hopefully, and go from there. But let's go get that decal kit and get that on. I'm actually gonna do a little test sample on the spoiler here. So here's a preview of how that looks. And then I'm gonna do the prep all and then kind of move on from there. Now I'm not gonna do this exactly per the directions because it says to take the Scotch-Brite pads and kind of rough up the paint. Get any oxidation and any grime or anything like that off of it with the Scotch-Brite pads, but I feel that I cleaned this good enough with everything else, and the paint is thin enough. Plus, I'm not doing it for the patina. I'm doing it to try to preserve the original paint here. Ooh, UPS is here. Yay, deliveries. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab those. Okay, UPS delivery. Let me show you what I ordered. This came from Owsley's Chevelle part. And this should be the passenger mirror for the 73 Chevelle. Now, if you didn't get on the Chevelle, if you did not get the sport mirrors, you only got one driver's mirror. And what the original owner did, he bought a passenger mirror that would have came like on a Monte Carlo or something like that. And it just, since it doesn't have the right angle, it just does not work. Well, they make an aftermarket mirror that resembles the driver's remote mirror. So figured why not give it a try, and ordered it up. A couple different companies offer it. Owsley's was the cheapest, so I'm gonna get it from them. Actually, it was on back order, but it was only on back order for 4 days, and then here it showed up today. But it looks correct. Looks really good. Only thing I noticed is different from the original one, just the screw on the back. This is kind of a flat screw. The original screw on the other one's kind of a domed head. Which the mirror would be a little bit harder to adjust. Just because when they're easier like this, when you slam the doors, a lot of times they move. But going down the road, the mirror I have on it now moves, so hopefully this will be better. But we'll put that back in the bag, in the box, and save that for another day. Okay, well, I got this trunk wiped down. Not sure if I did the panel by the windshield, or the window here. So I'll quickly wipe that down. The underside of the spoiler. Because now the intention is to only do the spoiler, but you know how everything goes. You get carried away, next thing you know, the whole trunk lid's gonna get done. And I guess it all depends on how much material I have left. Okay, so per the direction, it says, how much do I need? 1 32-ounce container will cover one long bed C10 truck. Let's see, can I do more than one coat? Yes, if wiping, wait 24 hours after the first application and give the surface a light scuff, then apply. If spraying, allow 20 minutes of flash time in between coats. Shake well before using. Always wear proper PPE, ventilated. Do it between 50 and 77 degrees. What do we got? We're at 81. Let's see. Wash the surface with our pre-cleaner and water used in the light gray pad, blah, blah, blah. I didn't have the pre-cleaner, I guess. Then it says to use the wax and grease remover on one wet rag. Let's see. Mix a clear catalyst with an 8-to-1 ratio. Have 2 hours pot life at 77 degrees. Blow off the applicator. Make sure the surface is dry. Start wiping it on. Do not use and. Okay, so a little warmer in the garage here than I would like to do it, but let's see. Okay, well, while I figure this out, I'm gonna hit the fan on and try to cool it down a little bit in here, and then I'm gonna keep going. Okay, got a little bit mixed up here. Actually, it's gonna go a little farther than I anticipated. So, since this will go farther than I figured, guess what? Trunk lid's gonna get done. And this will sit overnight. If it doesn't turn out exactly the way I want it, either give it a light wet sand and then spray the rest of it. Again, I kind of wanted to do it as a wipe on just because that's what it's advertised as. A little bit goes a long ways. Set this down here. Let's get you guys in here and show you the before and after. Like I said, a little bit goes a long way, so I'm trying to actually thin it out a little bit. Just so I don't have the lines. Again, I'm not using the applicator pad, I'm just using one of the rags they supplied in the kit. And it is tagging up pretty quick. Part of that is just because it's so warm in here. got enough to do the roof, so maybe I will go and grease the roof and throw a coat on. The heck, might as well. Seems to be really absorbing into the paint. So if you guys can see, even after all the greasing and cleaning, still getting stuff up. Now when I do the second coat tomorrow, I am gonna go and use the actual applicator pad. That way it can go on a little heavier. Okay, well, we got the first coat on the trunk lid and the roof, spoiler, surrounding areas. It actually went on a lot easier than I expected. It's actually smoothing out really well. I definitely will need to do a second coat on it though. So tomorrow, what I'm going to do is start with the hood, and then go with the hood, roof, trunk lid, rest of the body panels, and then let it sit, and then if I have enough, do a third coat on it. Thoughts on it? Well, I don't know if it's any shinier than before. It did darken the paint up a bit, so we'll see. I can see the difference actually right here where it's darker. The fine cracks and everything are still highly visible. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, like I didn't do this area here, but then I did right up here, and I can tell the difference. So we'll see what happens when it dries, and then we'll see what happens when I do the second coat. Hopefully just with building it up a little bit, it might be a little bit better. And again, all I'm trying to do is just preserve this original paint. I'm not trying to do any patina or anything like that. It's just trying to save the original paint for a number of reasons. The car can only be original once, and I'm too cheap to give it a paint job right now. So most of my cars have all been repainted, so it's kind of a personal thing, wanting to keep this one original too. So we'll go and let it sit overnight. We'll get back tomorrow. Here we are 2 days later after putting the wipe on clear coat on. Now I did wipe this on. You can see there are some lines where it did a little thinner than probably should have. And then here it is on the spoiler. This is, I did a little thicker, but there is a few lines in there you can see. Now, one of the things I probably would have done, if I could do it again, you can see right in here, because I had a touch up. I went and I wet sanded. Actually took some of the cracks where, I don't know if it's picking up here on camera, but where it's smoother versus this area over here. Now, that's where the dilemma came into place. I could have wet sanded the entire roof, and it probably would have been actually a better finish because it would have taken a lot of these little spider cracks out. Now the spider cracks go all the way through the paint, but it wouldn't have been quite as noticeable as you can see here, but they are still there. Maybe it would have taken some of the corners down, maybe if I just did a light wet sand, I'm not sure. But then again, if you look, like here, how thin the paint is. And that's the dilemma. I wasn't quite sure if I should have went and took the risk and sanded everything and tried to get it a little smoother to try to lighten up these cracks and then did the clear coat over it, or but then I had the potential of going through the paint. For example, when I was doing it around here, how it was so thin. But if you look here, it's a little smoother. And then again, will these just come back in the future? It'll lighten up a little bit for now, but then they come back through it, and then I end up with the same outcome as this, but now the paint just that much thinner. Not sure, but anyway, I got the one coat on already, so now at this point it's kind of too late, I think. I might try to wet sand this when I'm all done to see what will happen, just to do a little area to see if it'll smooth out. But right now I got the one coat on the trunk deck here, the roof, and then it looked real quick. I mean, I don't know, it's a little shinier, but again, it was a pretty thin coat versus that I didn't do anything to. Nothing. Clear coat. So, in person it did darken the paint up a little bit. So, I think it will help a little bit, but I am gonna go and actually, if you look, the rest of it I'm gonna spray on. Getting everything taped off right now, so I'm gonna go and just spray everything, and hopefully that'll help with the shine a little bit more. Right now, I just got a little bit more taping to do, and then around here, gotta fix that stripe, and then get the tail lights off and some of the lights off, and then get the rest taped off, and then once the temps cool down a little bit, I'm gonna go and spray the rest. Okay, I have the Monte all prepped. It is almost 1 in the morning. Had to wait for everything to kind of cool down. It's still showing 73 degrees in the garage here, but it's not gonna get much cooler tonight. So, and it's supposed to just get hotter throughout the week, closer to 100 degrees. So I just wanna get it sprayed and in so I can get it done with. As of now, the only thing that I have done to the car is I wiped on the clear coat on the roof and the trunk lid, and to be honest, between the hood and the rest, I really can't tell the difference, but if you touch it, you can feel that it's actually quite a bit smoother. So I'm hoping now with spraying it on, it'll help fill in the cracks a little bit more and just kind of hopefully bring out the shine. Haven't really noticed the shine a whole lot right now, but I did put it on fairly thin when I did it because I just wanted to kind of test the area. So got everything taped off. Just gonna go grab the gun, mix up the stuff, and start shooting it. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, got the car drying now. I did 2 coats on it, and I will admit that I am not a professional painter. First off, the plastic pieces shined up really good. I am very impressed how that went. I did not have the gun adjusted right, and I got some runs in it. So what I think I'm gonna do is, once everything's cured, give it a few days, wet sand everything, and then try buffing it out. I mean, it's already fairly dry to the touch, and this paint just seemed to want to absorb everything in. So very shiny, the gloss where the plastic parts are, and like the mirrors, but this stuff just keeps absorbing it in. And I put it on pretty heavy, a little heavier than I wish I would have. I wish I would have did a little bit lighter coats, but again, I didn't have the gun adjusted right. So there'll be some wet sanding having to be done to get rid of those runs. But sprayed on pretty easy. Could have done better. That's how that went. Let's look at the roof here. You can see it. You can still see all those cracks in there. So I'm kind of hoping, and again, it dries pretty fast. But the positive part is if I can go and wet sand this nice and smooth now and get it looking good, like you can see here where just a little bit of like a run. And I just don't think no matter how thick I put this stuff on, it's gonna be that great just because of the paint being so bad. But the primary goal is gonna be to wet sand it, and that I can actually wax and polish this now, and maybe it'll look a little bit better. Well, there you have it, between wiping it on and spraying it on. Make sure you have the pressure down pretty low and your gun set up right before you get going, because yeah, I'm not knocking the product at all. It's my abilities. So, and my mishap, but I think I'll be able to fix everything. Well, at least the plastic stuff is really good. I mean, look at how shiny that looks and how it darkened out. So, from this position, looks pretty good. But you can see the difference where, in the shine, where how well that took to, like I said, just the old paint is just absorbing it pretty bad. Well, more work ahead. Alright, well, we'll get you guys in here after I just checking a few things out. Get you guys in here when I'm done doing the wet sanding, and we'll see if it improves and see how this will look out in the daylight. One thing I noticed where I did these touch-ups before back here, I did that probably 5 years ago, and you can see where it's kind of pulling up after spraying it on. And even when I wiped it on, it was kind of pulling some of the paint up there. Just give you guys a quick rundown here. I went and had to go and buy another can of the Poppy's Patina because the paint just absorbed it. Now what I think was happening is that there are so many fine little cracks in this paint that I'm not sure if it's with the self-leveling or what, but it just kept filling in all those cracks. So it pretty much is like the paint was just absorbing everything like crazy. So it took quite a bit, and plus I didn't read the directions, but it said if you sprayed, you need to use 2 cans of it versus just a wipe on with just 1. But right now, as you can see, I'm starting to wet sand a lot of this stuff because it did not turn out that great. And part of it was, well, all of it was because of me. Used a new spray gun that I've never used before, and I've always used the siphon style spray guns, and this is the first time I used a HVLP gun, and there was a little bit of a learning curve to that. So I started off and I was spraying too high a pressure, and then I got it dialed in and started working better. But by that point, kind of the damage was already done. But I went and I also did a wipe-on coat on it, seeing if I could get it a little thicker, just because of the way it was just soaking into the paint. And the problem with that, it was too hot when I did it. It says to apply this stuff no hotter than 77 degrees. Well, it was 77 degrees in the garage when I was doing it, so it wanted to set up pretty fast, so I have a lot of the lint from the applicator pad stuck into the paint. So that's what I'm kind of doing now. I'm starting off with 1000 grit to get a lot of the big imperfections done, and then I'm going to move over to 1500 and then finish it with 2000 and then polish it out. You guys don't need to sit there and just watch me wet sand. That's no big deal. I'm just using a couple sanding blocks there, and I'm gonna go and do that, and then I'll give you guys an update when I'm done with the wet sanding, and then we'll move on to polishing. This is how it looks now. Hit it with the wet sand, went with 1000 grit, 1500. Still need to do the 2000 grit. Still need to hit a few areas where I had some runs, but gradually getting there. Try to smooth this out a little bit more, but actually it's turning out pretty good. Let's look at the roof here. a little bit in there, but it is looking pretty good. Feels a lot smoother. Just wanted to let it dry and kind of see what I was still needing to do. Any spots that I missed, you'll see in there, but I think it's turning out pretty good. We'll hit it a little bit more, and then we'll start getting the compounds on and start polishing it back up. Just wanted to do a quick walk around. I got the car all wet sanded yesterday. Got it back out here today in the shade. Gonna give it a polish now. And let's see, here it is, wet sanded down. Did an okay job, but I didn't want to get too aggressive because I didn't want to get through that clear coat. But I think it will turn out okay. Also, see the roof here. You can see the spots here that I fixed before. Now I did run the polisher across the back here. You can see the mess, but it actually is coming out okay, and all those cracks are filled in. So hopefully this will hold up good enough that it will be good for the long run with just a lot of polish and waxing. Probably could have went a little bit more with the wet sanding, but I think I'm just going to try to polish it out now and run it the way it is. And then I can always do it a little bit more in the future. You can see here I got one run that I'll have to take care of too. But hopefully it'll turn out okay. But I am going to keep working here. The rest of the car, I just did a small test area there on half the trunk lid just to see how it would be. But we'll keep going. I'll give you guys a closer look here. Getting this polish out, and if you look real close, you can see where I could have probably wet sanded a little bit more to get a little bit smoother, because if you look here, that's what's showing up. But I think right now I'm just gonna go and polish everything out and call it good enough for right now, just because it's supposed to be in the 90s here this whole next week. It will be better than before, but obviously not as good as a professional job, but good enough for a first time spraying this stuff. But so far I'm pretty satisfied. This is after the first round of cutting compound on it. It'll clean it up to do there, but it's starting to shine up fairly decent. I said there's some imperfections in it. Let's try to get you close here. You can see where more wet sanding will take care of that, but I'm just gonna keep going. And I had a big oops right in here, so that'll be a little bit more wet sanding down the road. I'll get the roof. So it has a reflection on it now, which it never ever did since I've owned the car. That quarter panel turned out really well. I know I did it pretty thick there when I sprayed the clear on it, but so far, the only thing I'm really having issues with, let's see if you can get you in here, see like that pitting, where I sprayed it on, and I thoroughly cleaned this paint beforehand, and I used 3 rounds of Prep-All on it too, and it still did that kind of bubbling there. I'm not sure what went on. And see, that's the thing I'm afraid of. If I try to wet sand that off, will I go all the way through? I don't know. But I do have more of this material, or the Poppies Patina. I still have more of it, so I might just try doing like some small touch-up areas on it, like just work on maybe that part of the car and see how it turns out if I can get rid of that, and be a little thicker, and then wet sand it. And if I do that, I'll just be wiping those areas on. But here we go. It's actually coming along. I would say for pure amateur status with doing this, it is turning out good, and I am going to be happy with it when it's done. So now we'll start round 2 to see how that will be, and that will be with a fine cut cleaner and a lighter pad. One thing I wanted to show you guys is I did half the trunk with the fine cut cleaner now. So driver's side is the medium cut, and we'll go over to the fine cut. So you can see that it's starting to actually darken up the paint a little bit more, and it's getting rid of that haze. So definitely glad I went to the next step here instead of trying to, be lazy and cut corners. So I'm going to go over, and that didn't take long at all just to do that little bit. So I'm just going to keep going with that, and then like I said, I went from a medium cut with a coarse pad. Now this is like a medium pad and fine cut cleaner, and then we'll go over to the fine pad and go with a polish, and then I will go to the extra fine pad and then just do a wax with that. Got the second coat of, or the second round of cutter done. You can see the reflection there. See how much better it's getting. Unfortunately, you can see the runs. And again, I'm going to have to go over this hood once again with wet sanding, and I'll probably, like I did 1000 grit, I'll probably have to go down to 800 grit and really hit her hard and get a lot of this stuff out. But like I said, as of now, I'm just trying to get some of the shine, and then I kind of want to see how this stuff will hold up through the rest of summer, and I probably will hit it up next summer and really try to bring more of the polish out. But still, it's so much better. Now that rear quarter I spent a lot of time on. I mean, it's like glass. So that one turned out good. So obviously it can be done. Just how much time I want to stick into it. And some of these were imperfections in the paint from before, but it is getting better. Now, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I would give it all the wet sand again and hit it a little bit harder, a little bit more aggressive than what I did. And then it wouldn't hurt to give it even one more coat of the Poppies Patina spray. Now, I said this is 2 doses of it already. But yeah, it is looking better. I'll say it looks better than it did before. It's a good 20-footer. Before it was about a 40-footer. Okay, well, let's get the polish going. Okay, here we are again. Just did a coat of Meguiar's Ultimate Polish. Trying to bring up some more shine out of it. You can see on the rear quarters are actually turned out really good. Even the trunk lid's not too bad. Got a little wavy on the door here with the clear coat, but more block sanding would actually take care of that. Same with these little pits here. But like I said before, this is as good as it's going to get right now, which it is, again, a lot better than before because I could never have waxed it like it is now. Yeah, it has imperfections in the paint or in the clear coat, but the entire original paint was just one big imperfection now, just because of all that cracking in it. And it just made it miserable actually with the car because you could never put any protective coating on the paint because it just absorbed right in besides that black wax. And even after a while, that would start to get white once it started to really dry. So again, I'm really happy. Any issues with it is mostly my error. One of the other things is that with so many cracks in the paint, it just really absorbed this clear coat. So if I would have had a gallon of it and I could have taken my time a little bit more and, you know, not panicking that I'm running low, and could have got it on a little thicker, it would have been actually a better finished product. Just washed the car off, got all the leftover compound off of it, and basically I just wanted to show you guys this before I dried it off. But first time ever since I've owned the car, no matter how many times I would try to wax it before or do anything to it, the water would never beat up on it. So kind of a remarkable thing to see, actually. Like I said, no matter how many times I'd wax it before, and sometimes I'd have 5 coats on it, and it would never beat up like this. With all those cracks, the water would just absorb in. And when I take the chamois across, I mean, I just do a little spot like this, and even though it looked dry, it would just absorb all the water that was down in those cracks. So another thing beyond just hopefully looking better is that it'll help preserve the car, because if that water sits down in those cracks, it could potentially cause it to rust a little faster. And this way, it's looking pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna go get it dried off now, and then actually it looks like it's gonna rain here, so I'm gonna go and dry it off, get it in the garage. Well, after a long week, finally done with the clear coat on the Monte. Now, this one was kind of a tough one just because of the weather not cooperating. It's been humid and hot every day. When I sprayed this, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to get it as cool as possible, and it was still 77 degrees out in the garage, and it says not to spray this any hotter than 77 degrees. Well, kind of know why. It wants to dry pretty quick. Now, when I did it the one time, it was that warm, and I did the wipe on, and I mean, it was almost drying instantly. I'd do a pass, and then come through to do another pass, and it was already tacking up. So my suggestion would be to do it probably somewhere in the 60s, so it would take a little bit more time to cure, and I think you could get it leveled out a little bit better. I do have some streaks and some runs in the paint just because of it drying so quick. Now, again, this is the Poppy's Patina. I believe the Vice Grip Garage stuff is pretty much the same. Not exactly sure, but would I use this product again? Yes, I would. Now, was it the ideal for what I needed it for on this? I'd probably say no. With this paint, there are so many of those micro cracks throughout, pretty much from this body line up over the top of the hood, roof, and trunk lid, down on the back of the trunk lid, pretty much any side getting sun exposure. Down below here wasn't as bad, but with all those micro cracks, when I would spray the stuff, the paint would just absorb it. It would just go in to all those cracks and fill in, which was good because that's what I was wanting. But it took a lot of product. Now, I was trying to do this on the budget, so a can of that, I think I paid, it was on sale when I got it, and I got the whole kit, and I think it was probably like somewhere $150. Well, I ended up having to go buy 2 more kits to do this. Out of the 3 kits, I did end up using 2. I still have 1 full can of it left, but I didn't want to use it for this car because I was using it for a different vehicle. And once I do, pretty much it's going to be for the 73 Chevelle trunk lid. So I just needed a little bit for that. And once I'm done with that, I can go back and touch up any areas on this car. Now, the reason why I wouldn't use it because of the quantity you get. I found other clear coat systems out there, actually just clear coat paint. There's one, it said that it remains flexible, which I think would have been good for this car to fill in those cracks. And then if there's any movement and all, maybe with the paint being flexible, the clear coat won't crack, and that's what I'm trying to avoid with this. And that's why I went with Poppy's Patina, because I was hoping that
it would fill in those cracks and the cracks wouldn't resurface. But the other product that I found it after I bought the Poppy's Patina, and you can get it in up to 5 gallons, a 5-gallon bucket. But I would have bought a gallon, and then I could have sprayed. Because that was the downfall with this, is just that I kept running out of material. I wasn't sure how the paint was going to react to the clear coat system. I didn't know that it was going to absorb it that bad. I mean, I literally took the sponge, the applicator pad, and squeezed it out on the hood, and it just went in, and you could just see it just absorbing in and drying out. And part of doing that is why I do have some runs in the paint too. A few other issues I ran into. First time using a HVLP gun. I've always had the siphon guns. So when I first did it, I had the pressure too high on it. So that was one issue, and that's where some of the runs came from. A lot of the stuff was human error, my error on this. It was nothing to do with the product at all. Let's see, the product sprayed really well on the front nose cones where it did not have all those micro cracks on the front nose cone, and on the rear plastic bumper it laid perfect and it looked great, and it just took one shot and it was clear, looked good. But like again, when I sprayed this, it just kept absorbing, and that's where I ran into just running out of material. One other thing I could have done is gave it a little bit better wet sand, but again, I was kind of the point of where it was absorbing so much in, I didn't want to sand all the way through the clear coat. So again, if I would have had more, I could have done it thicker, sanded it down, or I could have sanded it in between coats and it would have been a little bit smoother. So it was a learning process with this. I think if I go through and give it another wet sand, again, I'll probably wait for a little while to see how this product lasts. I do have a little bit of flaking right here. Not sure if I burnt through it with the buffer or what. I just noticed it this morning. So again, I have one more container left, so I'll just do a little bit of touch up. But I'll probably go around just with one of my small sanding blocks and just get some of these runs out. And then if I do go through, I can just use the other jug that I have. Let's see, now that I got you on in the sunlight, you can see that there's actually a shine to the car. But I do have like some of these runs in here, and real close. Kind of hard to see with the reflection of the clouds, which never would have seen before. Runs, and then these pits right in there. But again, if I would have spent a little bit more time, I think block sanding this, it would have turned out better. Now I did the rough here, and I mean, and this is just so smooth. I mean, actually, I got a couple scratches already in it, but I'm not sure how that happened. But this turned out really well up here. Trunk lid looks pretty good. Look down the sides. Now you can see it, like I said, I didn't go in, fix any of the dents or anything. It was just meant to be sprayed. This, I mean, it's just like glass here. And never had a shine on this car at all. The paint was just terrible. I mean, it could really use a repaint, but didn't want to really spend that much money right now. And again, that turned out really well this quarter. And now these turned out better just because, like I said, the top surfaces on the trunk lid here and the roof and the hood were just terrible. I mean, just the sun did a number on them. And down below, these were actually pretty smooth to begin with and didn't have all those cracks in it. So that's why I think the sides turned out better. But still, actually got a compliment on it yesterday from one of the neighbors. Now you can see where, hopefully it shows up. Now, see, I got a little thin, and that's when I waxed it yesterday. And here you can see where the wax fills in those cracks. So I'm going to have to clean that area up and put a little bit of touch up in here to fill those cracks up. But then here will be the same thing, and pretty much those cracks are just hidden. Material filled them in, and the material filled it in, and pretty much hit all of them. Still got a little bit of cleanup detailing to do. Like I said, it started raining yesterday. You try to get it off the hood. And again, this is where it just kept absorbing it in, and I just put it on super thick, so I'll have to go back and block sand all this stuff down, get a little bit better of a shine, smooth it out. Got no professional body man, and then again here, you can see where it's kind of pitted here. So I'm not sure if I would have sanded them more, or got rid of them, or it just could have been a little thicker there too, and then sanded it and got rid of them. But again, on the nose cone, that turned out really well. This needs another one big cleanup, but not perfect. And this is where I said I think I might have burnt through it or something. I mean, it was kind of rough around here for some reason. Not sure why. I mean, I was just spraying and everything was going pretty smooth, and then this wanted to be rough around here. See if I can get this pulled off. Oh, you can see that it actually just pulled it up right here. And again, now that it just pulled it up, I kind of feel how thin it is right there, but how it kind of, how it's not smooth, but underneath it's real smooth. So I'm not sure. It was still like wax buildup and I didn't get it that clean around there when I wiped everything down. Not sure. If you guys have any recommendations, throw them down in the comments. But I would say I would use this again, and my downfall is just the quantity. And, well, not knowing what I'm doing here, I guess. But pure amateur job, but again, for a 20-footer, it looks good. Before, it was just, you know, probably a 25-footer because the paint was pretty bad on it, and at least now it has some shine, so when you see it driving by, you'd be like, wow, I think Chip Foose painted that car. Okay, and again, guys, the reason why I do these videos is hoping to bring some knowledge out. A lot of this stuff is pure amateur. Like I said, I've been messing with cars for 25 years, but a lot of this stuff like this is something new to me too. So I just want to bring my experiences out, hoping to save you guys some time and money on different things, learning from my mistakes. Now, this was a original paint car, but if you've owned anything from the 80s, you know how the paints just pretty much deteriorate and just crack up and terrible, and did not want to go out and spend $10,000 on a paint job right now. So I was hoping to do something to this to give it some shine, make it a little easier for waxing and cleaning, because this was just a nightmare with all those cracks. Water would just absorb into them, and I was afraid with the water absorbing in, the water would sit in there and potentially rust the car, because the water is able to get through the paint and now into the primer and down to the metal with all those cracks. So I was trying to find a product that said self-leveling, so I was hoping with being able to apply it, it would kind of level down into those cracks, and hopefully it would be a soft enough material that if any more cracks or anything would happen, that it just wouldn't resurface through the clear coat. Now, time will tell what happens. Learned a lot while doing this, what worked, what didn't work, what I should have done, and I've done body work before, but just never to the extreme. I've restored snowmobiles, but again, I always use a single stage, because the snowmobiles didn't use clear coats back then. They had like a gel coat. So this was something new to me too. So hopefully this will help somebody out. Again, I used 2 cans on this. I did wipe it on twice to see what would happen, and then I did spray it on, did a couple coats with that, and then basically I just ran out of the material. I would have had more, I would have sprayed it probably a couple more times, just trying to build it up a little bit more for the wet sanding. Then I wet sanded it down. I did 1000 grit, 1500, 2000 grit. I've used a combination of different style blocks and everything when I did this. Some of those really bad areas, I probably could have went down to 800, maybe even 600 to kind of really get through them. But again, I was just worried about going all the way through the clear coat. And I'd rather have it a little rough than go all the way through, I guess. Then I went and I buffed it out. I started with a medium cut. Went medium cut with a coarse pad, a fine cut with a medium pad, and then did a Meguiar's Ultimate Polish on a very fine pad, and then I went to a just a paste wax, and I did that by hand. And everything, and that was just kind of like a quick job, just because it started raining on me when I was doing that. And I have a few areas to touch up and go around, but that was the process that I took. Not sure if there's any other better processes. These are all new pads. I've always used a different style pad on my buffers, and the problem that I had before is every buffing pad I had, the way the buffer was set up, I had to take the nut off and replace the whole pad. Went over to Harbor Freight, bought a Velcro backing plate, so then I could just use those pads and then just pull them off and switch them out when I was doing it. Made everything a lot quicker. Went through, you can see in the one video, or even earlier in this one, the process and how it actually shined up pretty good. But again, pretty satisfied with this product. A lot of downfalls that I had, it was just the humidity and temperature that I was working with. These last couple of weeks were just terrible, but this is when I had time to do it. And again, that's why I was out at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to get as much done as I could. But again, I would say product wise, very satisfied. My workmanship on this, okay. So yeah, well, that's pretty much about it. I mean, it's actually really smooth. And would I do it again? Yes. Would I use this product again on this car? No. On my Chevelle on the trunk lid, would I think it works really well? Yes, because that is not all cracked up. And the Chevelle, I'll show you in another video on that one when I get to it. The whole car was painted, it's clear coated, except for they didn't paint the trunk lid for some reason. So that, I just want to do a clear coat on it to try to blend it in with everything else. That one has paint imperfections, so I'm going to try a few different things on that one, and then we'll see how the product works on that to see if, again, I don't have all the cracks, so I don't think I'll be able to use as much on it, or it won't take as much. I am just going to try doing that on a cooler day and just doing the wipe on since it's such a small area. Spraying on, yes, definitely recommend spraying on. Now, if I would have done it with a lower pressure on the spray gun, it would have been better. When I did the second round on it, I lowered the pressure more. Lowered the pressure at the tank. Didn't even think about it. I had the tank coming out at 150 psi, and then at the gun trying to break it or knock it down to 35. I think I ended up dropping the tank down to 50, spraying the gun at 30, and that worked out pretty well. Didn't have as much overspray, was able to get more material on, and then didn't have all that air coming out to push the runs. And again, if you guys have any suggestions on what to do, I'm done with this for the most part, besides correcting the errors. But if you guys have any tips or pointers, throw them in the comments, help somebody else out. Again, that's the whole purpose of this channel, is me just putting this out there, hoping to help other people out. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, hit like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more work on the Chevelle. I think the 71 Mani will be coming back. Got a few other things coming up here, and a couple little, just not so much how-to videos or videos like this, but a few other little fun things. But again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.